Now we have to get into a technicality, but without understanding this technicality, we won't grasp exactly what Kant is doing in his ethical philosophy. We'll also miss what Kant thinks of as his proof that happiness cannot be the highest ethical principle. Kant calls his highest ethical principle the categorical imperative. In order to understand this, we first need to know what an imperative is. An imperative is a statement that expresses an ought, but we mean different things. In fact, we mean three different things when we say ought. And by breaking down those three different things into three different types of imperatives that correspond to our three different meanings of the term ought, we'll discover why it is one particular type of imperative that Kant designates as the ethical imperative. He'll call it the categorical imperative, but we want to ask the question, as opposed to what? That question is, for me, the most important question in philosophy. The most important question when we're seeking truth and wisdom. If someone is claiming something, or I myself am believing something, in order to see what specifically the claim means, I need to know this as opposed to what. Now, I've put a handout on Brightspace for you of the different types of imperatives. And here, the categorical imperative is opposed to two different kinds of hypothetical imperatives. The difference between a hypothetical and a categorical imperative is the hypothetical imperative is conditional. It depends upon certain conditions being present. It's not universal. The categorical imperative is unconditional. It's valid regardless of any conditions, regardless of any difference in circumstances. And of course, you can predict that. Kant is going to say the moral imperative has to be the categorical imperative because it has to be universal and necessary. So you see that for Kant, moral commands are unconditional, therefore categorical. They simply say do D. Within hypothetical imperatives, there are two different types, right? There's the problematic and the assertoric hypothetical imperative. And notice that those two imperatives have a first, middle, and a last name. The first name is problematic, the second name hypothetical, and the third name imperative. All three of those names are important. So what's a problematic imperative? Well, if you want to make an omelet, you have to break a few eggs, right? That is a problematic imperative. It's not problematic in the sense that it's a problem. In fact, it's a solution, right? I might have a certain problem that I want to solve, that I'm hungry, and what I find in my refrigerator is some butter or some oil and some eggs. And so I want to make myself an omelet. And somebody says, well, if you want to make an omelet, break some eggs. That's a problematic hypothetical imperative because it belongs to, it gives you the solution, it expresses the solution to a certain problem, but you might or might not have that problem, you might or might not want to solve that particular problem. When I'm not hungry, I don't feel like making omelets for myself. Okay. The assertoric hypothetical imperative is an imperative that refers to conditions that are not just possible, but that are actual. So here's my favorite example of an assertoric hypothetical imperative. Stop dating crazy people, right? Stop dating psychopaths, let's say. That's an imperative. It sounds absolute, but Kant wants to say when we look at it, what it really means is I'm assuming that you, like all other human beings, want to be happy. And this, not dating psychotic people, psychopaths, excuse me, that would be a means to attaining your happiness. So there is something absolute about it, but it's only absolute because human life takes on a particular character. We don't know that all rational beings in the universe are motivated by the desire for happiness, right? We just know that we are. So the assertoric hypothetical imperative is conditional. It's just that all human beings meet this condition. We don't know if it's true of all rational beings. So these we could say are recipes for happiness. And Kant wants to make clear, this is where Mill makes his mistake. This is where the Epicureans, the hedonists, this is where everybody who bases morality on happiness and pleasure gets it wrong. Because the assertoric hypothetical imperative is precisely hypothetical. It depends upon the desire for happiness. It refers to actual conditions, but it doesn't refer to necessary conditions. And so the moral law, or the highest principle of ethical action, has to be a categorical imperative, and that categorical imperative has to go beyond happiness. So we have one formula of the categorical imperative so far. This is known as the universal law formula of the categorical imperative, or also the universal law of nature formula of the categorical imperative. We'll consider those two as the same formula. There's a bit of disagreement about that. But what Kant means by universal law is on very close analogy with the laws of nature, like Isaac Newton's principle of gravity. There are eventually going to be three main formulas of the categorical imperative, and we'll learn about the others next time. So before we close, I want to point out to you what are known as the four cases, right? Everybody who studies the groundwork of the metaphysics of morals knows these four cases. And they come up first, they come up a few times, but they come up first on pages 35 and 36 of the reading. And I've highlighted here, they're the numbered paragraphs. We can simply refer to them for short as the suicide case, the borrowing case, the talent case, and the helping case. And the point here is to see how the first formula of the categorical imperative, the universal law formula, would apply to four different ethical situations according to Kant. We're going to give special attention to the maxims and to the procedure of testing those maxims by the formula of universal law, that first formula of Kant's categorical imperative.